That's fine. Um, yeah. So tell me about shitposting about music from a bunker. Is that what it's called?
Yes, so it originally, and this is going back way before I was even, I suppose, remotely aware of its existence. I think it spawned from a Facebook page that was basically memes about Tom York
Yeah.
and
Okay.
Radiohead. I think it was based on lyrics to, I want to say Idiotech from Kid
Yeah.
A. Shows really how much of a fan I am. And I am a fan. I just, yeah. Anyway, so from that spawned a group, and the popularity of that group absolutely skyrocketed over the
Okay.
years. I think we're sitting currently at 90,000. And
So is it an Australian page?
there are Australian admins.
Okay, but it's an international.
It's international. So
Yeah.
we've
Right.
got yeah, I've got admins in the US, the UK. I think we've got an admin in Turkey as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's all over the globe.
I thought it would have to be because there's so many people on there.
Yeah.
But I sense like Australian-esque humor in there. Is there like a dominance of Australians, or it's not related to
I wouldn't say a dominance, but I would say as a proportion of the population, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Huge Australian presence there,
But I think that's true of a lot of social media in general. Like,
especially with the reverent stuff.
okay,
We
yeah,
flock to that.
yeah, okay.
You know, if it's shit posting and, you know, just, I suppose, things that Australians would generally find funny.
Banter,
Yeah,
taking
we
the
flock to
piss.
that like a moth to a flame.
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure. Okay, so how did you come to get associated with it?
I genuinely can't remember. I think it came up as a suggestion. Oh, I want to say 4, maybe 5, even 6 years ago.
Okay,
Joined it, decided to contribute to it a little bit, and yeah, one day I suppose I was seen as enough of a pillar of the community to be
an
granted
admin.
a moderation role at first, and then yeah, became an admin
What?
shortly thereafter.
So this wasn't the first thing I was thinking about when I was thinking about this podcast. Was like, I initially was thinking like talking about music and philosophy and stuff like that. But then I was thinking about you, and I was like, man, that's actually so interesting that you admin a shit posting, like a music shit posting
Oh,
group.
absolutely, and I think
Uh,
it's probably not the biggest, but it's definitely one of. We've had journalists from American magazines and whatnot, you know, try and message us and get little tidbits and whatnot
that's
for their
funny.
articles. Yeah,
That's great.
it's up there on the
Wait,
internet.
have you hit up? Have you talked to any of those people?
Not me personally, but there are other administrators that I suppose are a bit more reputable or notorious, depending on which way you
Okay,
frame it.
sure.
So it's have definitely been featured in quite a couple of articles now.
Yeah, cool. That's unexpected to have like serious clout, like old media clout.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. From shit posting of all things.
So tell me about Tom York.
Tom York. What about him?
Well, you
Where
sort
to
of said
begin?
you said that the page originated from another page about Tom York.
Yeah, so it was a meme page about Radiohead specifically, and you know, just taking the Mickey out of them. The admins obviously love the band, but also, I don't know,
It's easy to take the
saw
Mickey out of
fit
him.
to, yeah, absolutely, take the piss
So,
out of it.
I guess why I'm asking about him is prior to so a lot of my knowledge about like music culture stuff is almost irreverent of a lot of the population, like the cultural understanding of it. So when I think of Tom York, I'm just like goaded singer,
Great singer.
great songwriter, maybe needs help of like Johnny Greenwood to like realize his song, like songs
Oh,
with the full potential,
absolutely.
something like that.
Yeah. Well, it
But
stands
then
to
I
reason he's
see,
in both projects.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But then then I see the shit posting about music group, and it's literally just like shitting on him.
And I think what's great about that is it's there's obviously a lot of respect for Tom York as both a person and an artist, but at the same time, there's a lot of irreverence that leans into, I suppose, the stigmas associated with Tom York and Radiohead for, you know, being a mopey, miserable
Sure.
band and, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
incel music, this, that, the other. And a lot of the jokes do revolve around that in a very ironic sense.
Yeah, sure. So do you think because he is so good, it's because he's so good and because they do have that reputation as being mopey and shit, that it's just like ripe, like the humor hits because it's done in like a, how do I say it, like
It's quite sarcastic, quite ironic.
clearly
Yeah.
clearly sarcastic. It's almost like respecting him even more in a sense, because it's like
Yeah.
you're not above criticism. Like, we really love you, but at the same time, like, Jesus Christ, mate, like, get it together.
Oh,
Sing a happy
absolutely.
song.
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, there is quite a lot of commentary, I suppose, in a lot of the jibes and jokes and whatnot. Yeah.
Is there anyone else in the group that has that kind of memeability?
Oh, I think Paul McCartney for some reason became a topic over the last couple of months. Who else? Kanye West, but
He does it to himself.
yes, he
To
does do
quote
it to
Radiohead.
himself. He makes himself a very visible target, and
There's a lot of that has to do with mental health.
a lot of it does have to do
Unfortunately.
with mental health. And there have been a few instances where we've gone, all right, this is getting a little bit out of hand. Let's
Yeah,
just
okay. Brain it in.
tone it down a little bit, rein it in. You know, it's all good and well to joke about certain aspects, but let's not get, vicious or
Sure.
malignant about this. I don't agree with the things he said, you know, but by the same token, this is clearly a man who has a lot of influence such that people can't really say no to him anymore
Mm.
when, people do need to start saying no to him and start making suggestions. But unfortunately, I would say that he's a victim of his own success
Yeah.
in that he's got to a position where he's accumulated so much power and wealth that what he says goes.
Yeah.
And
When he's not taking meds, or when he's not like in control of himself.
yeah, absolutely.
can sort
It
of-
can be a very difficult thing for the people around him to navigate. So,
Yeah. In fact, they're probably just not navigating it.
well, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Kanye West has definitely been a bit of an interesting one. There's been some great content, but at the same time, it's something that we definitely keep an ear out for in case it gets a bit.
Yeah, vicious.
How you going?
Okay, so they're like the what would you call them? The icons.
Oh, there's a rotating roster. There's one
People
every
come in and
season.
out.
One every season.
One every season.
Oh,
Tom York is the only main character.
I would say so. There probably are others that I'm just completely blanking on at the
Blanking on.
moment, but the focal point has always been Radiohead and Tom York. With
It
other,
is so funny to me.
it's
It is
ridiculous.
so funny.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
So what's it like adminning a group of people where their sole purpose is to talk pure shite?
Oh God, what could I compare it to?
How do you know where to draw the line?
That is a brilliant question. I try to avoid things that are malicious. It can be very
You
easy
posting or you moderating?
with me moderating,
Yeah.
I definitely, try to gauge the intentions, I guess, behind some posts. Some things are obviously posted in good faith and maybe miss certain social cues or whatever
Yeah.
have you, and can be
We're all musicians. We miss a ton of social cues.
yeah, exactly. But there are some things that aren't necessarily posted with the very best of intentions that
Sure.
we have to deal with swiftly. With me in particular, in some of my posts, I'd make my opinions known,
Okay.
but I do so in a way that is irreverent, and I try not to pontificate too much.
Okay. Right.
So I'm not a big fan of Bob Geldof, for instance, and
Sure.
I'll make posts that mock him, but I don't want to actively denigrate him in any serious, sincere
Sure. If he's done
capacity.
something silly,
Yeah,
you'll
absolutely.
mock that, but you're not trying to say that he's like a terrible person potentially.
No, God, no. I
Yeah.
don't know anything about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll mock Live Aid and all of that, but
And I think that's kind of like the point, right? Like, we actually don't know these people,
no.
but we think we do.
Yeah.
Not you and I, but I think people have this like feel that they know the idols in their lives, or like celebrities, as if they
Yes.
met them, but they actually haven't.
Yeah,
they're
and
just-
they end up in these weird parasocial relationships
Yeah.
with these artists. And I've noticed that one particular artist, and someone I failed to mention earlier, where a lot of people tend to have these sorts of relationships, is Taylor Swift.
Right.
They get quite wrapped up in the personal life aspect, and everyone has their opinions.
Yeah.
It's easy, I guess, to form an opinion when the media regarding Taylor Swift and other artists like that. You know, it's always very front and center. It's always big news, I suppose.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, it is interesting.
Taylor Swift. When I think of Taylor Swift, so I was trying to say this to someone. I'm not like her target demographic.
No, no, God.
That doesn't mean that like how do I say this? I don't particularly enjoy her music.
Yep.
But it's not from a position of it's popular, therefore I dislike it. Quite the opposite. I quite like a lot of popular music, and often there's a
Absolutely.
reason why I like it. And it's
Yeah.
like the fact that it is popular often lends itself to a reason why I like it.
Not all music
just-
is popular on its merits, but there are a lot of instances where that is absolutely the case.
Yeah, it's just banging music.
Absolutely.
Like my friend Mason said he thinks Bruno Mars is like the next Michael Jackson.
I can see where he's made that connection. Yeah.
I can see where he's made that connection too. I like, Michael Jackson's music, what he did and who he is as a person, notwithstanding.
I think they move in different circles.
Sure, definitely. There's like a lot of respect there for his music. And I feel that way about Bruno Mars, like in his second chapter onwards, if that makes sense.
Yep.
That first chapter did my head in, and it was similar to Taylor Swift. I'm like, I'm clearly not the target demographic for this. But neither did I think I was the target demographic for like 24 Karat Magic. But that shit slaps.
It does. It absolutely does.
That shit slaps.
And even with Ronson, Uptown Funk.
Oh man, I mean, that is a song that I think it just got played too much.
Oh, it was absolutely done
so
to death.
good.
Yeah.
There was we were at a karaoke bar in Tassie, and like the Killers, Mr. Brightside.
Oh God.
Came on.
Apparently, that's still in the UK charts, even say 20 years after it was released.
Okay, so this is what I was saying about Mr. Brightside, because it came on, and I kind of rolled my eyes. And the guy I was talking to was like, "Yeah, come on, it's still a good song though." And I said, "I think Mr. Brightside might be the only song that I know of that did essentially a full 360. It went from being so good to being overplayed and like I was sick of it, to then being so overplayed that it kind of came back.
Yeah, it was a
to
complete
being
horseshoe. Yeah. And you see
I don't know many
people in
songs like
clubs
that.
go absolutely off at that song, even, this many years later.
Yeah, literally.
There are some songs, especially 80s bangers and whatnot, that they dip out of popularity and whatnot. People forget about them. And then, they become popular 30, 40 years later or so. This is a song that has just stayed there in the charts.
It just
has
went to
not
number
gone
one.
anywhere. Attitudes
stayed.
towards it has definitely changed, but yeah.
It's still been relevant.
Yeah. It
Which is
has
crazy.
never dropped out of relevance.
But it's like the dream. Well, I wonder how the Killers feel about it. They obviously would be stoked about it bank, but I wonder if they're kind of like, all right, guys.
I feel like it's a bit of a double-edged
been
sword, to
20
be
years.
honest. Like, there's so much more catalog to look into that's...
I've never paid attention to.
Yeah, exactly. Because
Have you?
a little bit. There are a few songs that did get radio play as well that I do know of off the top of my head. Like, it's Human and When You Were Young and songs like that did get radio time, but not nearly to the same extent.
Oh, no way.
No
I mean, no other song.
No, nothing's come
It
close.
doesn't feel like any other song. Like even Uptown Funk, I think, has just gone to like, all right, guys, we've heard this song.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
absolutely.
Like we know. And maybe it'll come back around in the next few years or something like that. But that's the thing, is like there is pop music where I'm not the target audience, but I still really thoroughly enjoy it because it's really well written. I'm not trying to say that I don't think Taylor Swift songs are well written. I just sense something about it that doesn't grab me,
No.
and that's totally fine. I'm not dissing it. Because it's clearly
We're not the target audience.
It's clearly done well,
Yeah.
and I'm not, but that's fine. What I'm trying to get at is that she has this following about her that sometimes we talk about we have to separate the artist from the art. Sometimes we have to separate the fans from the art as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And she is one of those people, I think.
Yeah, there's a loyalty that is just astounding among the fans and whatnot. And
Loyalty would be an understatement.
yeah, I suppose I'm putting it incredibly mildly, to be honest. It's almost quite ferocious, a sort of
It can be.
Taylor can do no wrong sort of mentality. Among,
Yes.
obviously not all of them, but a select
In the rabid few.
vocal minority,
Yeah.
very vocal minority.
See, and I'm not even on Twitter, and I know about this shit.
Yeah.
That's the thing is, if I was on Twitter, I feel like I would be like so against it.
It's like it's definitely not a circle I move in, but I've heard this a lot regarding K-pop fans.
Okay,
Yeah.
I've heard like because people
They become militant.
well, because people use BTS as like behind the scenes,
Yep.
and
I've seen that.
have you seen like the whole like
Don't reference this, you know.
yeah, like you're trying to get more likes on your
Yeah.
that has to be a piss take. Do you think they're being genuine?
Oh, I want to be optimistic here, but it's a very diverse world.
Oh man, it takes all sorts.
Oh, absolutely. So it's yeah, look, I want to say it's a piss take, but
just
considering
never
some of
know.
the things I have seen on Twitter, you absolutely never know. It's there be dragons.
So, just keeping on about Taylor Swift because I think she's a really interesting person to talk about. What she's doing with regards to like the Taylor's versions, you're like aware of that stuff?
Not intimately, but yes, I do
So
get the
she's just
general
like
gist of it.
yeah, she's trying to get like things that the mechanical rights to her song. So she has obviously the IP, the
Yeah.
intellectual property. She owns that, so
Yeah.
music. But she doesn't have mechanical rights or mastering rights. And she actually tried to buy them,
Hmm.
and they didn't offer it to her, which is crazy. And then they've completely bit themselves in the bum because now she's just re-recording them all.
And making an absolute killing doing so.
Making a killing doing so. I mean, she was at the top of the game, and then she just kept soaring after
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? Because all of her fans were like, "Cool, we'll only listen to Taylor's versions from now
Yeah.
on." And now the record labels aren't earning anything from that.
She played that gambit so incredibly well. And I think, yeah, it was a massive own goal as far as not giving her
Labels.
the rights and whatnot were concerned.
Oh man.
Concerned rather.
So I wanted to bring up what was it because we were talking about songs coming back. Rickrolling. You would be in a unique position to talk about a song coming back and for meme purposes. I feel like.
When did it come out? It was the late 80s. I want to say 88 or 89.
Yeah.
I would have probably been.
I'll look it up whilst
Don't
you.
quote me on this, but I want to say that was in either year 7, year 8, maybe year 9 at the absolute latest when that really became a thing.
Oh, 87.
87.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you believe me if I said that's what I was thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not just trying to get useless brownie points.
No, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt this time.
So year 8, year 9. We're about the same age, right?
Yes.
I'm 28.
Yeah.
Yeah.
29 in a couple of weeks. So yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah.
Similar-ish.
So we would have been in say year 8, year 9 when it really became a thing, and it got long in the tooth so bloody quickly.
Yeah.
Like it became irritating. But then I found, a couple of years down the track, you would get a dodgy link that was a rickroll and whatnot, and you would actually be amused by it.
Yeah, it was actually funny again.
Yeah. And that was barely a couple of years, I'd say.
It was so memed that it got old and then it became funny again.
It became a novelty because it became unexpected again.
Yeah.
Despite it being absolutely done to death.
Yeah.
Once it went away, that first, big wave of popularity it had, every so often you get one of those and you're like, oh, I remember when that was a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But what I really, really respect about Rick Astley is that he made minimal attempt to really capitalize on that. It was this big thing and whatnot. And, he wasn't trying to cash in or do anything like that. But a decade down the track, he's made a comeback. He's touring with Foo Fighters and all of that.
Exactly.
He's doing interviews and he just seems like such a nice, genuine
He seems
guy.
kind of lovely.
Yeah.
Which I'm always reticent to say about someone who is still alive. But
Yes.
I think we're almost, I feel like we're safe.
I mean, you look at some of the things that Morrissey said on Twitter and you think, oh.
Talk about a living meme.
Oh, absolutely.
Surely he gets featured on the bunker page.
There is another page actually that's more dedicated to the Smiths. That's it's primarily Morrissey, but it's where he definitely cops it. But Morrissey is an occasional feature.
He'd have to be. It's so intensely memeable.
It's hard not to.
Yeah. It's like it's borderline. See, whereas picking on Tom York is just like, all right, like we're just sort of poking fun here. Morrissey's more like low hanging fruit.
Morrissey is low hanging fruit, and that's, you know, no thanks to some of the things he said that have been, you know, racist or otherwise quite abrasive, where he's just, you know, said quite malicious things, but he's done so in such strange ways.
Oh yeah,
It- like,
yeah, it's quite odd. Just
he's always been a bit weird with his words and the way he phrases his opinions. So I find
Firstly-
that just adds to the meme ability.
yeah, it's like nobody asked.
No.
Also, why are you saying it like that?
Yeah. And,
Ratio.
you know, furthermore, why are you saying it in the first place?
Yeah,
Like,
literally. Like nobody asked.
nobody did ask.
Literally,
No.
no one asked.
Looping back to point one.
Yeah, literally. But with Rick Astley, like he didn't capitalize on it for a good decade. You're right. And then
Yeah.
I remember, has he come out with a new song since then?
I want to say he has been probably active with that sort of thing, but it's not really something I've paid much attention to. Obviously, you know, I was going to say Rickroll, Never Gonna Give You Up and Together Forever were absolute smash hits when they came out, but beyond that, I know absolutely nothing of his career, and I think that that probably is the case for most people. You know, it was, for all intents and purposes, a one hit, two hit at best wonder. So,
Do you think Duran Duran are also like that?
nah.
I mean, a bit more.
They
in the
did a
bank?
Bond thing. They did A View to a Kill. They did Rio. They did Girls on Film, and they did, what was that big one? Oh, help me out here.
Isn't Hungry Like the Wolf.
Hungry Like the Wolf. That's
That was,
the big
but that's
one.
why I'm saying that was the one.
That was
wonder.
huge.
But it's not White Hit Wonder, is what you were saying.
I would probably, I would probably avoid calling it a one hit wonder just because, you know, those other songs you do hear on the radio, not nearly as frequently,
No.
but
They are still there.
enough to know that they did. They
More
did
so than
chart.
like Call Me Maybe or Friday, which I'd like genuine one hit wonders.
I think that's generous to Friday, but yeah, at the same time, it was a hit for all the wrong reasons. So
Oh man.
look, I'll give it a pass, a
But
sympathy pass.
That is like, I think I haven't seen any memes about Friday.
It got
Rebecca Black.
Yes,
But like, I mean, on the shitposting page, have you guys done any Rebecca Black? She kind of tried to keep it up for a bit, and I don't think it was
I
successful.
think Rebecca Black's quite fascinating actually because the song Friday itself is incredibly low hanging fruit. It is, for all intents and purposes, a terrible song.
It's trash.
Lyrically, musically, you know, it's just garbage. But I don't know. I think Rebecca Black has enough self awareness that it kind of takes away from the humor. I've seen,
Okay.
you know, things that she's said and done since then that, you know, you kind of think, oh, you know, this person's taking ownership and is showing character development and all of that.
Yeah.
I don't really feel as great joking about this now,
Yeah.
which I
okay.
think is probably a mean spirited outlook to have upon reflection. But at the same time, yeah, I don't know. See, it's not the same as, say, memeing Baby by Justin Bieber.
Okay, sure.
I feel like taking the mickey out of that, especially considering the forthcoming. Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel as gross about that.
Well, I guess because I didn't pay attention to that album that came out a couple of years ago, and everyone was actually like, unironically, really good.
With Justin,
Yeah.
I do remember he had a couple of really good songs. Oh, I want to say around 2015 through 2017, but it wasn't enough to really prompt a deep dive, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, no, I haven't done it either. That's the thing is, I guess I am now old enough that I'm not part of that like youth milieu. So I'm not like getting this stuff secondhand.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like when I was at school or whatever, people would be like, "Oh, have you heard the new Justin Bieber song or whatever?"
Hmm.
And I'd be like, "I don't know. Sorry, didn't even know it existed."
Yeah.
Whereas now there's no one even telling me that.
yeah. You
That's
just
how
kind
you
of
know
find it
you're
on
old.
YouTube one day and you're like, oh, it's a thing. Oh, it's got several million views already. Great.
Yeah, exactly. I often have that experience of people being like, "Oh, you've definitely heard this song," and I'm like, "Bruh,
Yeah. Well, when you said that you weren't familiar with, what was it, Girls on Film by Duran Duran?
yeah,
Yeah, like that blew me away. That's been around since, I want to say, the early 80s.
yeah."
Wanna take a guess there? You might be able to
Okay, so not
do
because I
better
don't
than me.
I don't necessarily. No, it just there's something distinctly 1987 about "Never Gonna Give You." Sorry,
yeah,
that's
I
total
can
bullshit.
actually, yeah,
But like,
I
what
can give you credit there.
what I'm trying to, so I don't necessarily want to make this too much about me, although I'm happy that you brought
Not
this
at
up.
all.
It's just so my relationship with music, or like let's say culture broadly, which is quite music culture, I'll say broadly, is quite different than yours. I think in the sense that like my assumption about your musical upbringing or music cultural upbringing is that um, your parents probably showed you a bunch, or like cousins or your aunties and uncles probably were like, hey,
Yes
this is
and
the
no.
foundational knowledge.
Yes and no. My parents definitely introduced me to some diverse influences, but then I feel like I took a left turn with my own tastes
That's totally
at
fair.
probably about the age of 12 onwards.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that they like your taste now is reflective of what they showed you, but the fact that you're
There
kind
is
of like,
influence.
it's kind of like the way I'm trying to say it's kind of like mathematics. It's like you have to learn how to add before you can multiply. And
Oh,
like
absolutely.
they taught you how to add, i.e., they showed you, hey, by the way, Led Zeppelin is like one of the greatest.
Yeah.
You know, whereas I didn't discover Led Zeppelin because of my parents. I discovered Led Zeppelin because I was like in the band room, and my bassist was like, "Oh, When the Levee Breaks is like one of the best songs of all time," and I'm like, I don't even know what that is. You
See,
know,
that really fascinates me. And it must be such a different first impression of an artist like that when you don't have any, introduction to them. And then
yeah,
all
not
of a
at
sudden,
all.
this is just something that you've discovered, you know, in later years. And yeah,
So that was probably when I was like, I would say 16 is when I first heard Led Zeppelin.
jeez.
And I was playing music heavily. Like
Yeah.
I picked up guitar when I was 12, and I was playing piano since I was like 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Not that you would know when you hear me play any keys. I'm much worse. But uh, and Led Zeppelin's like a decidedly guitar band. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
absolutely.
so I was playing guitar for a good 4 years before.
See, I would have probably had exposure to them from the age of 5. It's not something that was played in any real circulation in my household, but you heard it on the radio and whatnot. And, it was something that you were familiar with, that sound and whatnot. So you would listen to other songs and be like, oh, it's that artist.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But to discover that at the age of 16, that would hit so differently.
Yeah, it does. Well, I mean, I discovered the Chili Peppers totally by accident, essentially.
How do you do that?
Did I not tell you the story before?
No.
Oh, okay. So this is how I got into music. If you want, like, this is the
Chili
story.
Peppers.
It was through the Chili Peppers.
What a start.
So I was at my cousin's house, and my brother and sister, they're 10 and 7 years older than me, and all my cousins were pretty much older than me as well. And so they were like, "Hey, we're gonna watch a movie.
Yeah.
It's too scary for you to watch. We're not allowing you to watch it." And I was just like, "What?" And it's like it was at a time, I guess, where people weren't like, "Okay, well, we have to think about what Matt's gonna do." They were just like, you figure it out, kid. You know what I mean? So I went upstairs and I like logged onto my cousin's computer, and I would just like, I don't know, just go through her iTunes and just listen to
Nice.
like song after song after song. And I remember, this is totally unrelated, but I listened to like Mr. Roboto. Dodo Barigato,
Yep.
Mr.
Yep.
Roboto. Dodo Dodo. And then I like loved that song, listened to it a bunch, got sick of it, and then kept going through.
I can
And
imagine that
then
appeal probably wouldn't be the most sustainable.
no, not quite. Although, still pops in my head occasionally. And then I, click, 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 and then
Yeah, I already know what this is.
and it was just like, whoa. And then that guitar riff comes in. I'm talking about Danny California, by the way. And that guitar riff,
There was no points for guessing that one. So what was the movie that you missed out on to discover Danny California?
I think it was like The Ring. Is that a horror movie?
Yes.
I
Yeah,
think
it's an odd one. Yeah, it's an odd one.
I haven't seen it since. I just know that I wasn't allowed to watch it. And so, I mean, I heard it and I just went, like, it was literally like mind explosion.
That's amazing.
And then I was 12 or 11, and then I played it another 6 times because I just was like, what?
What, on repeat?
Yeah, because I basically hadn't really heard rock music until that age. I could say the only like rock song that I had heard was, what's that song? Summer of '69.
Ah, yes. Summer of '69. God, who sings it though? Oh no, it's not lost him again.
And then the other song that I could maybe like, which is rock music, but it just felt so different from hearing Danny California, was Living on a Prayer.
Bon Jovi.
Yeah. Cause like that was just so, I mean, even my
Both of those artists are
decidedly,
very much my brother's taste,
oh, there
especially
you
at
go.
that era as well.
So like that's the thing is I heard that and it never really captivated me. So it's kind of wrong to say that I never heard rock music until I was 12, but I was never captivated by it and I only heard those two examples. And I mean they're still fine songs like Living
Mm.
on a Prayer, banging song. But I heard that in California and I was just like my first thought was what is this? I need to learn more about
Yeah,
this.
where can I find more of this? Yeah.
So a different cousin on my mum's side, this is on my dad's side. On my mum's side, I knew played guitar. I had a sense that this was a guitar sort of thing.
Yep.
And then he basically showed me on his guitar what a fret is and how to play a string, how to
Yep.
strum a string. And it was kind of game over from there. I started my first year of high school and I told my parents, like, I really want a guitar. So they paid for a $70, like, terrible nylon acoustic. And I
Yeah, I still
played
have
pretty
my
much like
version of that.
you have your,
I still have my version of that.
oh,
It
really?
was actually steel string to my parents' credit, but yeah, when I first got it, there was a couple of dings on it. It seemed that the whoever sold it probably, took them for who they are, not really familiar with all of that sort of stuff.
Okay,
So it was
right.
quite banged up, but
Yeah, okay.
oh, I
Still
played
played
it to
fine.
death. Yeah.
Yeah.
But my introduction to playing guitar, it probably wasn't as open the floodgates as yours.
Okay.
I initially learned on my father's guitar, which he bought as an impulse buy in Croydon at a music shop that has now closed for many, many years
Sure.
and never played. But both my parents are right handed. So I would play that upside down.
Oh,
Playing
like Hendrix?
oh,
Well, no, he restrung. Sorry.
yeah, he
Don't
did
worry.
restring and not nearly to the same.
We all
Couldn't
start somewhere.
remotely hold a candle to that.
That's
But
okay.
yeah, so I played it upside down. My chords were all
Messed
pretty
up.
ordinary, so it definitely postponed, I suppose, any headway in learning guitar for
Okay.
several years.
Do you
But
think, sorry, just because you sort of mentioned
yeah,
the
go on.
handedness thing, do you think playing piano as a lefty adds to any of the complexity or to the challenge, or is it not the same?
I mean, as I've never really favored my right hand, I suppose I can't really say with any great authority, but I've always wondered if being left-handed, I've got greater control over bass notes than say someone who does
Mm.
favor their right hand would have. And I have noticed a lot of the time I've got much better control with bass notes on the
Mhm.
piano than I would with treble notes on the piano, purely because of how dominant the left hand is.
Sure.
So I reckon there is credence to that.
You feel like you have more dexterity in your left hand
Oh,
generally.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So,
absolutely feel there's credence.
so you said that was your introduction to playing guitar, but that wasn't your introduction to playing music?
No. So upon moving to Queensland, my parents got me into piano lessons.
How old?
I would have been just about to turn 13, so that would have been the very beginning of 2008.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I did that all throughout high school, and I probably didn't progress as fast as I could have. But being a teenager and whatnot, it's very difficult to, I suppose, stay on track. We're very impulsive at that age,
Sure.
so
I would say I was a little bit different, but like we'll get into that another time.
yeah, no, with the benefit of hindsight, wish I took your approach, but no, I spent quite a lot of time playing video games and doing things that were really,
Yeah, same.
really counterproductive. So I did stick with my piano lessons all throughout high school. I want to say I got to, I could be wrong here, grade 4 Amy B by the time I hit year 12. So it was slow starting, but I
Yeah.
learned all the fundamentals, really excelled at theory. And it was from there that I kind of segued into production.
Production being producing, writing,
Yeah. So
synthesis.
I originally started out on Sibelius. So
Yeah.
a lot of notation and whatnot, and then moved into other software such as Logic Pro, FL Studio, GarageBand. Yeah.
Okay, so what's your history with writing music? We kind of touched on this when we first met, but I don't feel like I know the whole story.
Oh,
When did you start? When did you write your first song?
I would have been, I want to say 15. Again, I could be wrong on the details there. I want to say it was around 2010, 2011. So 15 to 16. And I was at that age in particular, very big on pendulum. So it
Okay,
started with a lot of drum and bass, or at least what I allowed to pass for drum and bass.
sure.
At that time, I was very, very rough. I'm sure that I have old demos lying around somewhere that are in varying states of terrible.
How old were you? Sorry.
15 or 16.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought I was so cool. I was the only person really in my grade that did that sort of thing. So
Yeah,
yeah. But I look back and I see kids on YouTube, whatnot,
they're
producing
smashing it
stuff. And,
now.
oh,
It's not even the same thing.
oh God, no, it's
No.
incredible.
It's much more accessible than it was when we were that age.
Yeah. So I had a friend of mine. I haven't been in contact with him for years. He kind of dropped off the face of the earth after high school. Come around one day and pirate just a whole bunch of software. So I had a less than legit version of FL Studio. I had a less than legit version of so many VSTs and synths
Yeah.
and whatnot. And I would just go to town. I would lock myself in my bedroom just all weekend, just tinkering away, achieving very little of substance, but honestly loving every second of it.
And you were trying to do D&B.
Yeah, I was.
That's so
And
interesting. I wouldn't associate that with you at all now.
it's not something I'm into anymore.
Yeah, okay.
There was a phase, and it was like what we touched on earlier, those sorts of things that are really popular for a while and then they fall out of
Flash in the
favor.
pan.
Yeah, it was a flash in the pan for me. So I would say for several months to maybe even a year or two at the absolute most, it was something I was really passionate about. I would listen to artists like Pendulum and whatnot, and drawing a blank on the others, which goes to show how much attention I paid to it in recent years. And I would try and emulate their sounds.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so that's your first exposure to writing music.
It was,
Is
yeah.
D&B.
Yeah.
Where did it go from there?
It got depressing. I started listening to bands like Radiohead, Joy Division. Yeah, so I ended up really, really into post-punk music, which
That stayed around.
that did stay around, which is very, very different from drum and bass, which is very high energy,
Mm.
a lot of synths and whatnot. Whereas with post-punk sounds, the synths that you do use, they're analog, they're quite minimal. And as I didn't necessarily have much in the way of resources in musical instruments or people to collaborate with, I had to synthesize a lot of those more organic sounding instruments, such as your guitars, your bass, so on
Oh,
and so
yeah.
forth. So, yeah, it almost sounded like MIDI from those early 90s video games in 16-bit when it all came together. But I did have, by the time I graduated high school anyway, framework for a lot of these songs that I had just been tinkering away at for ages. And then my computer decided to cark it with everything
Oh,
on
no.
board. So
Oh, you lost all of that.
lost all of it. So yeah.
That's literally my nightmare.
Yeah.
Hamish is just sort of saying that D&B is having its moment again now.
I have noticed that actually.
It's crazy. I know, like, there's people that I would never have associated drum and bass with that are just kind of coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
Just being like, oh yeah, loving it. It's like the only thing I listen to. Kind of feels like where deep house was at like 5 years ago, where it was just
Yes.
like everyone was only listening to like deep progressive house. So it's like people like really into D&B right now, which is cool because I like drum and bass. I don't mind it. I think like, I don't know, people who are really into it are gonna hate what I'm about to say. I think it's very similar to jungle, but it's clearly not the same thing, and I respect that. That's no dramas.
I can see adjacency there. I can
Ye-
definitely see adjacency.
It's just similar enough. I don't
Yeah.
think it's the same thing.
Oh no.
It's just like,
But there is a bit of overlap in that Venn diagram.
it's just really percussion forward,
Yeah.
which I really like about it. Anyway, I'm sure Hamish is going to be like, shut the fuck up. Stop talking right now.
We love some empathetic
But
opinions.
I love jungle.
Yeah.
So I'm more of a jungle guy than a D&B guy. Not because I think drum and bass is particularly bad, but just because I love.
Oh, that's all right. I don't have much stake in it anymore.
No, it's just like, how to say it. I love that sound of drums that you've pulled out there, like from a vinyl record, that like from the 60s or 70s. And there's this thing that happens when you just cut it and you like amalgamate this new Frankenstein of a drum kit outside of a like
What was
totally
that one
natural
break that gets used in so many
amen
songs?
break.
The amen break.
Yeah,
That's the
boom
one.
boom
Yeah.
gat boom gat boom boom
Yeah.
gat boom gat.
It's in everything.
It's in everything.
Yeah.
Which is cool. What I love jungle that goes like another step further because that just essentially just speed it up.
Yeah. I've noticed a few songs that do tend to splice it though.
That's the thing. Is the
Yeah.
splicing is really interesting to me because it's hard. It's a hard sound to describe, but it kind of like the air is different around the things that are being hit. Like,
Yes.
and so you get that immediate change of air and reverbs and
Mm.
stuff like that, which I think is super
Oh,
pleasing.
absolutely.
And I've
Yeah.
emulated in some of my earlier music.
Nice.
Yeah, so Hamish is saying he prefers jungle and liquid. I don't even know what liquid is. Do you know anything about that?
I've heard it thrown around, though I'm by no means an authority on it. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
okay.
couldn't tell you.
All right, Ham, you're gonna need to come on and show us what liquid is. Or once Ableton starts working out, we'll get you making some liquid jams.
Interesting consistency.
Okay, so post punk has stuck around. I got a side thing to say because you mentioned that 16-bit sound.
Yeah.
So have you seen that trend that's gone around? That's like, it's funny because mostly been the Chili Peppers, but they're doing it to other records where they go, "Here's the entire Californication album done with Donkey Kong country sound."
Yes, I have seen that. Looping back to Radiohead, they did that with I
In
want to
Rainbows?
say, yeah, they did do In Rainbows. I think they did OK Computer and Kid A as well,
Of course.
where they brought it back to 16-bit, 8-bit sounds, and it's pretty good.
So the 8-bit stuff I think has been around for a little bit because it's so accessible. Like
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
so easy to just basically make chiptune type stuff.
Yeah,
But the 16-bit I think has only been around for like the last year, maybe two.
yeah,
I guess those sound fonts have become like accessible to people now.
yeah. It hasn't been nearly as ubiquitous, I would say, as
You know
8-bit.
what's sort of been in the background of all of this? What's that Mario game?
Oh yes, Mario 64.
You
Yeah.
can do like sound, you can add notes and stuff to it.
Oh,
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. I don't know if it's Mario 64,
like
but
Mario
I have seen a
Composer or
lot of
something like
albums that
that.
have been done in the sound font for that game, though.
Man, there's
Yeah.
some Apex Twin stuff that's done in that sound font, but I'm just like, that's crazy.
Oh, that's amazing.
That is crazy. And you know what I think? I think so. I have this theory, again, not too much about me, but I have this theory that good music is good music no matter how you dress it up.
Absolutely.
Like, not that I would strictly listen to Californication in the sound font of Donkey Kong Country,
Yeah.
Donkey Kong 64, I should say. But Lee's saying Super Mario Maker, that's it.
Super Mario Maker. Yeah.
Not that I would exclusively listen to Californication that way, because there is like something to be said about the specific sounds that they decided to use on Californication.
Yeah.
But that those songs have something about them that they're sort of good no matter how you play it.
Yeah. A certain portability, I suppose.
Portability?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I would maybe call it like translation, but portability sort of makes sense in the sense that you're sort of and then popping it here.
In different interpretations, it still is a robust sound. It's still, musically good.
Yes, the harmony about it. It's like so you said something about Friday.
Rebecca Black.
What did you say? You said it's a terrible song. What I was thinking as you were saying that was that it's
still catchy.
Well, what I'm trying to get at is like the melody is quite catchy, but like there's not much depth there that keeps me coming back.
Hmm.
And I
Not
think
willingly,
good.
Anyway.
The thing that keeps me coming back to like good music, I think, is that depth, and it doesn't have to be complicated music. It just has to have something about it that, like, a tension or a statement. I often think about musical statements. Are you saying something? Which I think, to be honest, the opposite of that is like ambient music.
Yeah.
It's not trying to make a statement at all.
But
and I think that's
is the statement itself.
That's the thing, that's the draw card. It's so unsuspecting and so not trying to. it's not trying to bring you in. It's not trying to do anything.
No,
It's just like,
you're not
this is what
expecting
it
any
is.
subversions or any, rapid shifts in dynamics or anything like that.
No.
You know what you're in for. And yeah, I think,
Do you
like
listen
you
to
said,
ambient?
not a lot.
What do you think of when you think of ambient music?
Oh, like Apex Twin and all that, yeah?
So he
That's
has
the
a couple.
go-to.
He
Yeah.
has the Selected Ambient Works 2, which is considered like greatest of all time.
Yeah.
In that same vein would be
Very
like
famous album.
music for airports. Do you know that?
I have heard of it. It's not something I've
Brian
listened
Eno?
to. Oh, Brian Eno.
Yeah, which is
That
weird.
sounds more familiar. Yeah.
Well, because Brian Eno is like one of the most eminent like ambient producers of
Absolutely.
all time, but he's also one of the most eminent pop producers of all time.
Yeah, I mean, he was what in Roxy Music beforehand.
Dude, he did literally.
Yeah.
Dude, there's pretty much everything from
When
like
they were good.
70s and 80s. Like you've heard Brian Eno, you just don't know that you've heard of Brian Eno. You know what I mean? Not you specifically, but
Absolutely.
everyone.
I mean, he's in Heroes by David Bowie. He's just always been in the background of so many
Phenomenal
incredible
records.
releases. Yeah.
Just to harken back, as Lee said something really interesting. He said Legend of Zelda's theme has been done 8-bit through to orchestral, and in each way, it just is amazing. Have you heard the Legend of Zelda stuff?
Legend of Zelda,
Yeah.
like the
Video
OSTs
game.
and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're absolutely incredible.
And then like you just hear them from like the very first iteration in that 8-bit chiptune sort of style. Is chiptune the right thing? Is that the right phrase?
Chiptune, I suppose so. It does have a lot of sensibilities from sort of that 8-bit.
8-bit thing. Maybe I should
Yeah.
say 8-bit. And then you hear this exact same piece of music done by full orchestra, and then everything in between. And it's brilliant.
I think, yeah, a particular favorite of mine with the Legend of Zelda soundtracks is, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, the Fairy Fountain.
Oh yeah, it's the best.
That arpeggio just, absolutely
Absolutely
phenomenal. So well written. Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds great 8-bit, and it sounds great with the full orchestra.
Oh, absolutely.
It's literally phenomenal.
And it really speaks to what you said. It doesn't really matter
How you dress it.
how you dress it.
The bones is good.
Absolutely.
The bones are good. Sorry, English is my second language.
I was more concerned with the phrase itself. Should I be checking your back garden?
The bones? Yeah, there's a bunch of bones. How do you think dads get those cucumbers so good?
Oh,
Actually,
great fertilizer.
Actually.
Great fertilizer.
It pays off being Lebanese. All right, moving on. Where were we at? So we were talking about songwriting.
Yeah.
I was thinking, so you started writing post-punk music, but digitally.
Yeah. So I would.
That seems like a strange combo.
Well, it definitely wasn't an efficient way of doing things.
Yeah. Is this because you didn't play with other people?
Well, I
Or
did my
had you
high
been
schooling in a
bands?
fairly regional, I want to say city, but yeah.
Rockhampton?
Nah, Harvey Bay, God's waiting room.
I don't even. Whoa.
It's it has got quite the
Aged population.
aged population, a lot of nursing homes and retirement villages. There just wasn't a lot of opportunity for people like me at the age I was there. So I left fairly soon after completing high school.
Okay. Came back to Melbourne.
Not immediately, but yes.
Brisbane.
It was originally the Gold Coast for about 10 months or so, and then to Melbourne from there.
Just,
So
just give me 1 sec. I'm going to turn the lights on just because I think we might need it.
yeah, all good.
But yeah, keep telling us. I'll be listening, okay?
But yeah, so as it wasn't a massive sort of hub, I suppose, I had trouble finding people to network with. So I did a lot of it all by myself, which, was really inefficient, and you could really, really hear it in the output.
Oh, okay.
Oh, absolutely. Have you heard what a fake bass guitar sounds like compared to a real one?
Oh, man.
Especially, 15 or so years ago when you don't have, the latest native instruments,
Sure.
plugins and whatnot to
even
make it
now, they
sound
still sound fake.
absolutely.
opinion. But they
Unless
sound
you're
like that.
really, really, really good. Absolutely. Trying to, work those plugins to fool anyone into thinking it's, anything other than what it is a huge talent. Huge talent.
Yes. Yeah, you know what? Drums have like somehow, I guess they have basically been solved. You can
Drums have
do-
been solved.
You can do like MIDI drums and convince anyone.
Oh, absolutely. You give me enough time and I can absolutely create, drum loops that sound as though they're actually being played.
There's just something about stringed instruments.
Stringed instruments especially.
Yeah, even piano as a stringed instrument as well. Even though that's not been solved, but sounds pretty convincing.
Which is really interesting because I find that brass instruments and woodwinds and whatnot are quite easy to fake and sound somewhat
True.
genuine.
They can, yeah,
Hmm.
for sure.
It's string instruments though.
String instruments, it's just the bowing of it, because you can be so subtle.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, you can be more subtle with woodwind instruments and brass, but there is a little bit of an on and off kind of thing. And the really phenomenal players know how to play with dynamics. I'm completely talking out of my ass here. Let's be real.
I
There is
find
dynamics. I'm not trying to say that there isn't. I'm just trying to say that it seems easier to replicate. And I think it has something to do with the overtone series as well of the brass instruments.
I think it's easier as well if you're doing synth strings along the lines of, say, strings from a philharmonic or orchestra or something like that, because you can blend the individual instruments in to such an extent that it kind of disguises any of the.
Yeah, it muddies it.
Yeah, it muddies it. Whereas if you were doing, say, a violin, a viola, a cello on its own, you can absolutely.
Tell.
Yeah.
There was, I think is it pizzicato strings were like so common for MIDI strings because it just sounded like it sounded okay.
Hmm.
And so you'd hear a lot of fake
But that's
pizzicato.
because you're hearing a fraction of a second of the strings, so it's not like it takes enough time to register. Oh, is this real?
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
So I think there was a whole generation of like composers who, when they were using VST synthesizers, VST strings instruments, they were sticking to pizzicato stuff. They were like, sounds kind of the best, you know?
Yeah. No, I can't begrudge them. I can't begrudge them. That's resourceful.
Okay, so have you played with other people? Have you written with other people?
I have written with other people. Nothing that I have ever publicly released. I've always been a bit of a perfectionist like that. So I would have, huge folders full of all of these projects that I've, left in various states of completion and whatnot. But I've always been such an anxious perfectionist that I have been hesitant to, I suppose, ever get anything out there unless it was the absolute magnum opus. And it's such a toxic approach. It's not something I would advocate for anyone whatsoever, but it's one of those things where coaches don't play, I guess.
Where does that come from?
Oh, I suppose if we were to get to the root cause, it would probably come from just anxiety, to be honest.
Of?
Oh,
sorry, we were like,
no, that is a great question.
What is the thought process? Because I know what my thought process is.
I think mine would be a fear of negative appraisal.
Okay.
An assessment of my abilities that was less than what I wanted to, I guess, show the world.
Yep.
And I suppose a lot of that is a projection. It's, I suppose, a pessimistic outlook of my own capabilities. But yeah, I'm not too sure, to be honest.
It's a weird one. I think I'm also a perfectionist. And you just don't want to, like, with a song, I don't know if this is the way you think about it, but the way I think about it is with a song, you kind of have one chance to release the song.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I guess what's helped me is just be like, well, I want to do a good job of it, but it's not the only version of the song. Like, it's the only version of the song that you can maybe listen to recorded, but I've started to like bargain with myself that I could do different versions of my songs and release them.
People have done that before.
Yeah, if I really wanted to. Want to release this album this year. And I love the idea of subverting expectation because it's like a synth rock thing.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of doing like an acoustic version of one of the songs and just releasing that in the lead up to the song and being like, hey, here is the song in a totally different way.
See, that reminds me of Muse. So I think in 2001, I think the album was The Origin of Symmetry.
Yep.
They released a song called Hypermusic. And then I want to say a year later, they released another song called Hypercontract Music.
Okay.
Both songs use the exact same lyrics, the exact same chords, but sound incredibly different. Cool. One is high energy, it's angry, it feels liberating. And the other one is just so absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
It's the same song and everything.
Pretty much
but
the same song.
The way that it's played, the way that it's put together, it's just so different.
Mm.
And I think that is
I
fascinating.
think it's super fascinating to see that, like, it's like we're both looking at red, but one of them is like a Bordeaux and one of them is like a vivid red.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like red, but there's different shades.
And our
of it.
associations with those different iterations of reds, are quite different as well.
It's the same song, but it's just like there's different inflections, there's different highlights, there's different beauty about it.
Absolutely. And it completely changes the way that the message is being conveyed and the way that we interpret it.
Well, I guess so. Like the Nine Inch Nails version of "Hurt" versus
Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash
Yeah.
is another example of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what do you think? So being anxious of other people,
That's broadcast now.
thinking about, yeah, well, I mean, I'm happy to share mine.
No, I've got no
you
issue.
showed me yours, so I'll show you mine. It's just, so you're saying you don't want people's assessment of you to be any less than your grand sense of self?
That makes me sound delusional.
It's not that
I
it's
like that.
delusional. It's just that you have maybe unrelenting standards of yourself.
That is possible. I suppose any musician worth their salt wants to release something that they can feel proud of.
Sure.
We don't want to just get things off the production line, so to speak, and just be like, there you go, sort of thing. I think when it becomes like that, especially when you are, making money from your music, which is quite elusive for people like us.
Yeah.
Then yeah, it's not something I subscribe to. I want to be able to produce something that I'm proud of, that people can enjoy and whatnot. And I think there has always been I suppose, an inner monologue or dialogue or whatever have you. It's probably more of a dialogue. Because there is definitely back and forth up there about wanting to make sure that what I get out is the best it can possibly be. To do right by myself and by the listeners as well. And there have been times where I've, screwed around with EQ for dozens of hours, trying to tweak it just to get it right, to just throw my hands up and give up.
Yeah.
Because it's just, not happy with it no matter what.
So I think I'm not in the business of giving advice, and actually would love some advice from anyone, just in general, please. Help me. But
can you double that?
you just think, well, I've released some music now, and I look back at it and sometimes just kind of go,
But at the same time, I feel like, and this is going to be the pinnacle of hypocrisy here, I feel like it's a case of ripping that Band-Aid off.
That's what I was going to kind of say.
Once you do it that first time, it's only easier henceforth.
It kind of gets easier. I mean, there's been some pretty intense criticism that I've gotten.
Really?
Yeah, because I brought it to myself. Like, I wanted people to hear it. So then I worked with a PR company, and then we took it to like magazines and stuff. Some people love the stuff that you're putting out, and some people are just like, I heard every combination of criticism. I heard
Was this from the music press or?
Yeah.
Because they can be notorious for that sort of thing.
Which I'm like, I appreciate the honesty. It leaves you confused because people will be like,
I feel like there's honesty, and then there's the way that the establishment in the music press carry on, which gets a bit theatrical.
Sure.
And quite malicious, I would say.
Yeah, it can really beat you down. But that's the thing, I guess I learned, so this mostly happened with the most recent song I released, which was a while ago now, where it would be like, music is super original, I hate the voice. Or it would be, the voice is really great and doing interesting things, but the music just sounds like, generic, whatever, synth rock.
Pretty conflicting.
And then it would be, the music is great. I think the vocal performance kind of bad, but like what he's singing is kind of good. And you're just kind of like, really? Like, I'm just kind of, and I don't particularly like my voice or anything. I don't think a lot of people don't like their voices, but
no, I can't say I'm the biggest fan of mine.
No, but it was, I
Not
guess
even with vocal
immediately
coaching.
I was kind of like a little bit butthurt. You're reading that like, oh, really? And then like 2 seconds later, just kind of like, who cares? Like, it's so easy to read that and then kind of go,
Yeah.
fixate on the negative stuff. You know what was cool? I had people from like South America messaging me being like, love your song.
Yeah.
I'd never know these people. I had people like, the biggest compliment was someone added me to their personal playlist on Spotify.
That's cool.
And I was
Yeah,
just like, cool, like they really like the song. That I don't know this person. It's from South America. I've never been.
that's
How
incredible.
how do they even hear it? You know?
Yeah,
But that was just kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'll just,
yeah,
and I'm doing it for me anyway. So, that's fine. And
absolutely.
who cares? Like,
I mean, in the face of shitty reception, that alone is so incredibly validating and fulfilling that someone considered you good enough to be worthy of
their personal
being added on a
playlist or whatever.
playlist. Someone on the other side of the world that you
Mm,
otherwise have absolutely no connection to whatsoever.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think what like I would want to do with my music, which is kind of like what the advice I'm giving you is, it's like, well, if you're doing it for yourself, who cares what anyone else thinks? And secondly, there's probably someone out there who emotively connects with what you're doing.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that might be the case.
Might be the case.
Yeah, that was really a bit of a paradoxical statement, wasn't it? I'm certain it's the case. It's just a matter of actually doing something about it for a change rather than being like, oh, yeah, I'll get around to it.
So you've written with other people,
Yeah, countless times.
and that has been in a band.
I think we would have liked to call ourselves that at the time, but
Did you
it was never
rehearse?
in any conventional sense. There were rehearsals. There were absolutely rehearsals.
It was like a jam thing.
It was a jam thing. It was a jam thing. There was intention for it to go further, but it was never really anything that amounted to anything of substance.
Are you a take charge type?
Nowadays, absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely.
But then,
I wouldn't say I was free spirited. I think that, yeah, there were definitely times where I butted heads with other people, but so far as actually getting shit done was concerned,
not really.
dubious.
Yeah, okay. Because I just think, unless there's at least one person who's kind of like, all right, what are we doing?
You just mill about.
It can be a bit like that.
Hmm.
I feel really fortunate that the people that I play with are, so with my band, I kind of take charge with everything. It's
Yeah.
totally fine. Like, it's my creative output for the most
Of
part.
course.
The guys have a bit of a say in what goes on, and I love that. But I'm sort of taking charge. I'm very lucky that they're really happy to go along with what I'm sort of suggesting, and they'll put suggestions forward, and we'll like often talk about it over a beer at rehearsals and stuff.
Yeah.
But some of the other bands that I've played in, I've been really lucky that we kind of all want it to be something,
Hmm.
which I think is really rare. There's a lot of times people that like I have seen or talked to where they're kind of like, well, I'm kind of doing, no one's doing anything. Like, we're writing these songs, but nothing's happening.
Hmm.
And I'm like, wow, that sounds like a kind of hell.
Yeah. I found with a lot of the people that I did network with earlier, it was a lot along the lines of they're there, they know how to play this instrument. And beyond that, there was, I can't speak for them conclusively, but it did seem that there was minimal ambition beyond that.
Yeah.
It was just, oh, this is cool, fun thing to do on weekends, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I always had these, grand designs of what I wanted to create and whatnot. But I suppose I didn't necessarily communicate it as well as I did. And I certainly didn't do an incredible job of networking either. I kind of just took the first opportunities I could get and be grateful just to find people to network with, having,
Sure.
produced on my own for as long as I did, and not wanting to look gift horses in the mouth and so on. So yeah, definitely floundered about with meaningless pursuits.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what does success mean for you? Do you care about success
I
in
think
terms of music?
success, it's a very much a subjective metric, I suppose. And I suppose success for me would look like actually having a tangible output that people can listen to, people can enjoy. And a lot of that, a lot of my intention is to make things that people enjoy as much as it is for my own enjoyment as
Sure.
well. I think that may speak to the fact that I have been so hesitant to, come
Put it
forth and
out.
be just like, here's everything sort of thing. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I've got no interest in commercial success or anything like that, and I'm definitely not saying that for the clout either. Would be nice. I mean, anything's better than a day job, I suppose, so far as that's concerned.
Big time.
But no, I think it's just like what you said about that person in South America, for instance, that sort of validation, the
Sure.
knowledge that someone out there appreciates and enjoys what you're doing.
I think that kind of validation gives me joy and sustenance
Hmm.
on an individual level.
Yeah.
What I would define as success for myself um, is connecting with people in that way. Like we're talking about career wise, is connecting. I do find that is a metric of success for me. Um, as much so it's funny, I write music and I don't particularly concern myself with how people are going to receive it, but um, I would like a future where I could release music and play as being the majority of what I do with my time.
Yeah. Likewise. Absolutely.
And I think there has to be an element of commercial success with that. And I would not to the point where I'd be like, okay, well, I need to change this song to be more accessible. Wait, I'm sort of pausing when I say that because like sometimes I will do that, but not because I think it's because
It's not a commercial move.
it's more like, how do I say this? Accessibility isn't a bad thing, and inaccessibility isn't like um isn't a virtue. I don't think that making some like writing music that is progressive and totally out there is great, but I don't think that doing that is inherently a good thing.
Yeah.
Just
I
like
absolutely agree with that.
just like writing popular music isn't inherently a bad thing. Like there's kind of that idea in the musician's world.
Yeah.
Be kind of like, okay, this guy's writing whatever.
Hmm.
But I don't think that's true at all.
I understand those sorts of reservations towards pop music because there are a lot of artists out there that, it has very much been manufactured purely for the commercial
Sure.
returns and whatnot. But by the same token, there are people out there that produce pop music and it's incredible pop music.
Mhm.
And, there seems to be a lot of integrity to it.
Like, so let's use a tangible example. So not to harp on about Bruno Mars. Silk Sonic. Have you listened to much?
A little bit. Not a lot.
So you would
but
have
a
heard
little
like leaving the door open.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is they could have made really interesting musical decisions that would have made the songs less accessible and but the song wouldn't have benefited from it.
No.
But they probably tilted the songs towards being like, cool, let's make this accessible. Let's make the music as appealing as possible in a certain way. And I think the song really benefited from that.
Well, I think relatability in music is, in a lot of ways, quite important because you're not really going to vibe with music that you don't relate to whatsoever.
No, not at all. I am speaking specifically to like, yeah, because some people chase like you listen to that band,
I listen to a lot of them.
the one that you're trying to get me onto,
Ah,
the really strange band,
oh yeah, say no more. Yeah, another one, Cardiacs.
Cardiacs.
Yeah,
Um,
that was a very strange accidental discovery.
yeah, but what I'm trying to say, like you showed them to me, and I think they write great music. And
But they're not
some of their
accessible.
they're not accessible, but like their appeal is that kind of their inaccessibility. Do you know what I mean? Like they're kind of like
Yes.
we're just writing whatever. And they write good music, don't get me wrong, and it benefits from what they're doing. I still don't necessarily I wouldn't necessarily opt to listen to it a lot.
No, I get that as well.
Personally.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to get at is that there's like this world of known musical structures and known musical cliches and tropes and stuff like that, and that exists here. And then there is the unknown world, which is much larger. And artists act somewhere in that gray area in between them.
Yeah.
And music that is so far beyond what we know is so inaccessible. And like, I mean, there's value to it being there, don't get me wrong. But what I'm trying to say is like, I don't see the virtue in just being out there. And I don't see the virtue in just being totally in the ordered world, and that somewhere in between that tension of introducing unknowns to the world is like a cool place to be.
And I think that's what I found so appealing about Cardiacs. You could see that they were very much challenging the paradigm, but there was still a lot of, intrinsically pop sounds and whatnot to them. It was yeah, very juxtaposed, and I really found that quite fascinating.
It's like
Really,
novel.
it is very
I
novel.
would describe them as being novel.
Novel is a great word for it.
It's like quite new and like
It is.
experienced.
It's out there, but at the same time, there are elements of it that you know come from sounds that we are very familiar with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
They're not working with a totally new palette.
No,
They're not working with colors we haven't seen.
yeah,
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
they're not reinventing the wheel, but they're definitely doing a strange interpretation of it.
It's a pretty wonky wheel,
It's a very wonky wheel.
if we're being honest.
It's definitely
Okay,
not one I'd put on my car.
so your metric of success is connecting with people, wanting to have some sort of musical output that maybe allows you to keep
I
putting music out.
suppose, but I think a lot of it also boils down to, am I happy with it?
Mhm.
And by and large, the answer to that question has been no.
Yeah,
And so it's kind of sat on a shelf,
yeah, okay.
for a later date that never comes for me to polish it up. Um, yeah, so it's definitely led to quite the backlog. One that I have every intention of following up one day, but
One day.
one day is not tangible.
My neighbor, when I was a kid, he's a much older guy. He was kind of like a grandfather to me. He had this garden swinging door that was all but completely painted except for like one tiny patch of it,
Yep.
where like the door handle was supposed to go. And he used to say, because he was Arabic as well, he used to say "Bukra fil mishmish," which means tomorrow there'll be apricots, which doesn't really make any sense in isolation. But in Egypt, they say it to mean like, oh yeah, I'll get around to it tomorrow. I'll get around to it eventually. Like tomorrow there'll be apricots, kind of thing. And I kind of feel that way with my backlog
It almost sounds like
sometimes.
a kind of rainbows after storms sort of analogy, more so than I'll get to that later.
Yeah, it sounds like that's why. Yeah, this is one of those things when like things don't translate very well.
Yeah.
Like another one is shower blessings, which also like if someone shaves, you give them shower blessings, which is kind of strange. But it's just kind of like, why in the Middle East are we so concerned with other people's hygiene?
Yeah, it does.
Like if you came out of the shower, I'd say nahiman, which is just like graces like upon you.
Fair enough.
It's like I've acknowledged that you've showered.
Yeah, it's never really something I've ever really paid attention to.
Yeah. The closest thing would be in French like bon douche,
Or douche.
good shower. But
Yeah.
that's more like you're telling them to have a good shower rather than
Hmm.
acknowledging that they have showered.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's a beforehand.
I always
thing.
joke that it's the Middle Eastern way of like, how do I say it? Like encouraging people to take more showers. Like, they stay clean and I'll grant you graces.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's a nicer way of it's a much nicer way of doing it than telling someone outright that they stink.
Or encouraging positive behavior. It's like
Yeah.
the carrot and the
Yeah,
stick.
it's the phrasing. Absolutely. It's a carrot and a stick. It's positive reinforcement.
So that's what
Incentive.
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 Exactly. It's incentivizing. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at when I say that the backlog is something that you'll get around to. Have you gone back?
Yes. Yes. Many, many times. And I've listened back and it's a very, very strange feeling that you get listening to all of these abandoned projects. You get nostalgia, you cringe a little bit. Sometimes you think, fucking hell, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
And then other times you think, what the fuck are you thinking?
Right.
So it's very much a mixed bag, but very entertaining all the same.
Yes, it is super entertaining. Have you pulled out things? Have you been like, hey, this is time?
I have, but
By pulled out, I mean like resurrected it, kind of.
yeah,
Like,
absolutely. I've, loaded up old project files and played around with them, though it would never be in the same intensity, I suppose, as that first go at it. I would tweak things here and there and think, oh, this sounds better now.
tell me about that intensity.
Oh,
What's that first go?
I suppose it's that bloody ADHD thing about instant gratification and dopamine. So, you go back to these things, you get a bit of a rush from fixing things with the new ideas that you've had, but then I suppose the novelty, the appeal in fixing it and whatnot wears off as it becomes more laborious.
Yep.
And then, well, you end up distracted and down a Wikipedia wormhole.
I kind of think about, because I know what you mean by intensity. I kind of think about it a little bit differently. Like it's like this unhealthy 6 hour obsession with whatever you're doing in that
Mm.
moment. Um, I'll forget to eat. I'll forget to drink water. Like I could feel thirsty,
Yeah,
but not know to drink water. Like I'm just
absolutely.
so
I've been
concerned
there
about other
before.
stuff.
Yeah.
Um, that's you see a little bit in media. Like you see scientists obsessing over like experiments that they're working on or whatever. Um, you don't see it portrayed much about music.
Mm.
Maybe Whiplash obsessively, rehearsing. But that whole movie was super unhealthy.
There are a lot of artists out there, very eccentric ones, that you hear stories of, locking themselves away and forcing themselves to
Yeah, it feels like it's more
work in
like
isolation.
legends, and it's like stories that we tell each other as like part of our, trying to think of the right word. It's like the stories that we tell about the giants in our industry, like
Blur, for instance, in 1997, I think they locked themselves away in Iceland to record their 97 eponymous release.
oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I could very well be wrong there. Someone might need to fact check that. But
Okay,
from what I
so
read,
this is the thing about you. You have this encyclopedic knowledge of music
yes, one without
culturally.
citations.
Yeah, like asterisk points all over
Yeah.
it.
But yeah,
Why? Where did that come from? Was that part of your upbringing, or is that sort of your personal obsession? Or
my mother's always been good with that sort of thing as well. Maybe not so much with music,
so your
but
parents are both like really musically interested, or they play music, or
no, no. Mum's is good with trivia. I
okay,
wouldn't say either of my parents necessarily have bad taste, so to speak, but they haven't had they haven't had necessarily a passion for it, so to speak. They don't necessarily play instruments. Dad does obviously have a guitar. It was how I quote
heard
unquote
you.
learned. But yeah, no, it's if anything, a little more than a passing hobby with them.
So your interest in music and let's say like music trivia comes
I
innately.
Yeah, I didn't have any direct influences in family and friends. It was just something I really became passionate about under my own steam, to be honest.
Have you thought about going on Spicks and Specs?
Oh, I would love to. Love to.
You'd be
Spicks and
like the
Specks or
ideal
Rock was.
contestant.
Yeah, I know. Oh, no, that's conceited. I reckon, yeah, there'd be people out there that would absolutely give me a run for my money. In fact, probably even, leave me in the dust. But, you
But I'm
watch
like,
that show of a night time and I will be getting, 99% of those questions right. So,
that's crazy.
yeah.
99% of them would go right over my head. Literally would go over my head. That's one of the things I think consistently people remark on when they meet me is they're like, for someone who knows so much about music, you know basically nothing about music, like history.
Yeah.
Like if it's not about instruments or it's about producing or if it's about theory, like we're talking about, you know, someone's 1997 eponymous release, I'd be like, who? What? So I find that really interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think that has any bearing on like relation to your self-described like ADHD?
Probably. I would say
Like
so,
it's like an
actually.
obsession?
Yeah, it's very much a special interest, I think the phrasing for that is. Yeah, I just end up just going down these absolute wormholes reading about, artists and dates things were released and what inspired that, what instrumentation they used, reading between the lines with lyrics. Love subtext in lyrics as well. So, I'll often go off on tangents learning about little things that inspired them to put what words where and how they've phrased it.
Okay, so my closest connection to that would be loving a record or loving an artist and listening to interviews about it, and then them being like, so a big influence on this record was Sly and the Family Stone, sorry.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, cool, I should listen to them. So then I just like listen to them. But it was very, it's like a tree. Like it started with the Chili Peppers. And then, I learned about Nirvana, and then I learned about Sly and the Family Stone, I learned Parliament. And, that's how I
Absolutely.
kind of got to that. But your it's from where I'm standing, it feels like your interest in it is so broad.
So I would probably take your tree analogy and probably interpret it in my own, I suppose. Lost the word for it. It's like a bowl of spaghetti that has fallen onto the floor.
Right.
It is a fucking mess.
It's a mess.
There's a lot of, bits of pasta linking up here, there,
Sauce
everywhere.
somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. So it's a huge network, but it is a very, very messy one.
Yeah, right. That's interesting. Have you thought about just cleaning up at any pub trivia?
It is something that I have worked into Tinder bios in the past, to be honest, but it's never something I've ever made good on.
Yeah, you should do it.
I'd be keen to.
I reckon the
it'd be good
local
fun.
pub, 100%. The
it's
music.
definitely not going to win friends there.
Oh, that's totally fine. That's all right. That's no dramas. You get a free pint of beer.
Yeah.
So who are you spinning lately?
Who am I spinning lately? That's a really good question. It's kind of been all over the shop lately.
Deep dives?
No, it's been more exploratory lately.
Oh,
I've
yeah?
been, trying,
Putting the nets out?
seeing what is out there that I might not have come across before. So
Okay.
I've, not really been doing any deep dives as I normally would, but trying to find new artists that may, I don't know, captivate me in any way or influence, any stylistic changes or things that I could probably hone in on a bit more in, my own work. It's very derivative, I guess.
Yeah, okay. I getcha. Do you listen to your own work and go and think about what you were listening to at the time, or what? Like, I think about a lot of my writing as coming in like waves
Oh,
and
absolutely.
things that were important to me at that time.
Absolutely. And it's very easy to see as well.
Oh, you reckon? Well,
Oh.
I mean, you would know all of your own references, kind
Yeah.
of thing. Yeah. What like were big waves? So you had the original D&B, then the sort of post-punk thing. What were the waves after that?
Well, I was going to say that I've always been very influenced by David Bowie.
Oh, really?
And David Bowie, you can see it in a lot of his
Bowie.
works. What's that?
Bowie. David Bowie.
Bowie has followed a similar sort of path to that, in that he would go through these phases, these characters and personas, and huge stylistic changes. I mean, you had soul with Young Americans, you had post-punk with 1980 album Scary Monsters, and then there was glam in the early 70s, and even up through into the 90s with Earthling when he was working with Trent Reznor. You can see a lot of industrial influence as well. There are very much waves there. And by no means comparing myself to David Bowie, Jesus Christ. I have found that in my own way, I have very much also had waves of, hopping onto these influences and whatnot. And then 2 years, 3 years later, I would start producing stuff that was
Completely different.
so divorced from that.
Do you think so? When you say it's so divorced, do you think that it's genuinely not related, or that you've built up knowledge from the previous thing?
I'd say a bit of both. I wouldn't use it as a mutual exclusivity. I would say that, while it is fundamentally different, there would have been learnings from that time that I would have built upon.
Brought in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of think about it as like I have to figure out a way to make like my unhealthy obsessions meaningful.
Yeah.
So I've kind of made it be like, my obsession was like sound design.
Yeah.
Then my obsession was like rock music, and then my obsession, I'm not saying this in any like chronological order. Then my obsession would be FX pedals, and whatever I'm writing at the time, like it's almost like too much of that one thing that I really cared about.
Yeah.
But then if we're talking about peaks in these certain ways, and then it sort of comes back down, but where it was non-existent, now it's a tool in my belt. And then the next thing that I write, it's sort of still kind of in my mind, or still sort of relevant. It just might not be at the forefront of my mind.
Yeah, but you can still draw upon these things. Yeah,
exactly. Now, I want to hear your introduction or use of D&B motifs in post-punk now.
I was actually thinking of that the other day. What that would sound like. Those two
Oh, you
very,
were?
very different
Cool.
styles. You would obviously have to really push the tempo up. I think D&B stereotypically it's around the 174
Yeah.
beats per minute mark, and a lot of post punk, particularly some Joy Division songs, they do play. Stephen Morris, he drums very, very quickly on a lot of their tunes, so it wouldn't be
Out of the realm of possibility.
beyond the realm of possibility. No, not at all. But it would definitely be interesting to pull off all the same.
So I'm trying to imagine it. It's not quite coming to my mind. But what excites me about it is that these fusions, these mixes, are often so interesting, more so than we like originally intend. Something that Lee brought up at rehearsal 2 weeks ago was like clowncore.
Clowncore.
Yeah, and it's like kind of like what you would expect to hear at like like circus music, mixed with intense like metal. And it kind of has its appeal, to be honest.
Okay.
It's not something that I would spend my time listening to.
No, it almost seems intimidating, really.
It is a bit intimidating. And the videos were very funny. There was like driving around in like a minivan.
So really playing into those archetypes.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, it's so funny, man. It's so funny. And like, humor definitely has its place in some of this stuff. My music hasn't really explored the humorous side of things, but maybe one day. I think it's important to be able to like tap into those different emotions. I just haven't been able to do it. And another one that I really want to do is I would love to write something that's like sexy.
Sexy. Yeah.
Like I want to write something like Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
I think
I can definitely see the appeal in that. I've always just, I suppose, discarded myself as being a bit too much of an awkward white guy to ever really consider that within the realm of possibility, but it would be a very interesting thing to work on.
Sexy music.
Absolutely.
I mean, like genuinely, like Let's Stay Together.
Yep.
Al Green.
I think so.
Is
yeah.
that him? Bop, 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 bop. Sexy as. Whereas songs that sell themselves as sexy aren't. Like, I'm too sexy for this shirt, too sexy for my shirt, and you're like, cringe so hard.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, I don't know, some of the things that Right Said Fred have come out and said, it's hard to know where the line is with sincerity and parody, but yeah, no, I get where you're coming from with that. It's, yeah.
I just want to be like effortlessly sexy. Maybe that's just like that thing that the grass is always greener. You're like, oh, if it was only like that. But I do sometimes things like, man, I wish I wrote sexy music.
Yeah. I don't know. It's not really something I've ever actively considered, but now that you mention it, it is a very interesting thought.
To write sexy music?
Sexy music,
yeah,
absolutely. Because sexy music, it's something you associate more with sounds from, say, R&B and whatnot than really any other genre.
Okay, so this came up. We were talking about it. Sexy rock songs.
I'm thinking Closer, but that's more just sex.
That's just sex rather than sexy. Someone said a Whole Lot of Love, and I don't really see it, but they were kind of like, all right, but what if you were into like biker chicks kind of thing? That's the kind of theme that would suit like a biker chick. Yeah. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, that makes sense, but it's not what I think about when I think of like sexy.
Yeah.
But sexy is an eye of the beholder. But yeah, so it's just but even like even if it would be more generic, even just like writing something happy. I don't often write happy music. And like, for example, Stevie Wonder does, and he does it so authentically that sounds brilliant.
I've always gravitated towards sad music just because I think sadness can be a really, really interesting emotion to play with in music. But that being said, especially since discovering bands like Cardiacs and whatnot, I can see that there is a lot of dimensionality to happy sounding music and whatnot that I hadn't tapped into. That it was eye-opening, to be honest. And it's not helped by songs like Happy by Pharrell Williams, for instance, which is a very, well, I found anyway, a very surface level song. And it kind of, I suppose, and no
It is,
disrespect to
yeah,
Pharrell
it's a
Williams,
fun song,
but it did
but that's it.
alienate me from those sorts of vibes, I
Have
suppose.
you listened to much Stevie?
What's up?
Have you listened to much Stevie?
Stevie Wonder. Oh, I know the hits, but beyond that,
So there's a song that I'm thinking of at some point if you want to check it out.
of course.
It's called Uptight All Right.
Uptight, all right.
It's a brilliant song. It's like one of like I think it's like late 50s. I want to say maybe early 60s, like literally like really early career.
Yeah.
How to decide dun da 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 dun dun da 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 dun dun da 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 dun dun, and he's just singing about how
That's a pretty
cool.
catchy motif.
Dun, da,
Yeah.
da, da. I mean, it's like decidedly in that Motown era,
Mm.
and it was just like,
I think that in a lot of ways is a cornerstone of sexy music. You need to have those sorts of, you know, really reel you in sort of hard-hitting
oh
motifs.
yeah,
Otherwise, it's just,
Ooh, you're okay, that's fun.
you know, it's just not going to grab you.
Yeah. So one of the things I love about Uptight, is he's just singing about how poor he is and how he doesn't care because he's happy anyway.
That's
He's like
very
he's like so
Uptown
appreciative.
Girl.
Yeah, Uptown Girl. No, he's like singing like, you know, the clothes I'm wearing aren't very good and they're old, but it doesn't matter because I'm the apple of my girl's eye. Like, great.
Reminds me of that. Oh, what was that song? Baby, if you strip, you can get a tip because I like you just the way you are.
Timberland.
Timberland, yeah.
What's the song called?
The Way I Are.
Yeah, The Way I Are. That's
Yeah.
it. I was listening to that the other day. Man, that is a classic.
It's probably a bit more finesse to your example than mine, but
No, it's
yeah.
totally fine. I love. Like, it's funny. I love that. But that song doesn't come across as happy. It just comes across as accepting.
Yes,
You know what I
it's
mean?
very much, yeah.
But if we're going to go back to the sexy example, a more recent one would be that song "Pony."
By Lil
Boom,
Nas X. Yeah.
boom, boom, boom. Is that Lil Nas X?
No, that's Genuine. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
Genuine,
thinking of
yeah.
a completely different song that does have a happy vibe.
Old Town
Yes,
Road.
Old Town Road, Billy Ray Cyrus and Lil Nas X. It is Genuine that does Pony.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And that song is kind of sexy.
It is.
And it has that immediate like hook to it. You know, boom, ka, boom, boom, boom. Love it.
They knew exactly what they were doing.
Man,
Yeah.
100%. And like they have the confidence to pull it off.
And I think that's a lot of the sex appeal to it. Just that bravado.
100%. 100%. I want to work on that bravado. I want to start writing some sexy music. Let's write some sexy music together.
All right, I'm down for it. I don't know. They'll never see the light of day if I'm involved.
No, it's gonna happen. It's
Nah,
gonna
kid.
happen. It's about 8:45. So we started a bit earlier. Anything by Donny Benet? Have you heard Donny Benet?
Donny Benet, no.
So
Sounds familiar.
my bassist Lee is very into this guy, Donny Benet. I definitely recommend you check it out.
Yeah.
It is super tight. I think he's a bassist as well. He's gonna kill me. Or maybe he's just a producer. And he has some pretty sexy stuff.
Nice.
I'm trying to think of other like sexy music. Wolfpack is a little sexy. It's not like too sexy. You listen
Rod
to any-
Stewart, do you think I'm sexy?
Would you?
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not. I was just stirring the pot.
Okay, right. Because I'm trying to even think about it. I'm like, there is.
It's repulsive. I mean, it's catchy, but no, when I think of Rod Stewart, I think of Train Sets.
Train sets?
He has an obsession for it.
Oh wow. Okay.
Absolute obsession. Yeah. It's not what I would necessarily
Call
consider.
sexy.
No,
There's
not-
probably people in the train community though.
Oh, I hate to think.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
So it's kind
absolutely.
of like, oh, Rod Stewart's like the man.
Idol.
He
yeah.
brought training
Yeah.
to the forefront of the mind.
Yeah. No, I don't have no disrespect for Rod Stewart, but songs like Maggie May and Do You Think I'm Sexy and all of that, it doesn't really ooze that sort of appeal.
No, I wouldn't think so.
No.
Alter Bridge is sexy. Thoughts? Do you know Alter Bridge?
No.
Okay, that's probably for the best. We'll leave that one. This is the same guy who
Oh, I don't
says.
know.
This is the same guy who says I've never heard of Silk Sonic. By the way, so Silk Sonic decidedly sexy. Agreed.
I would say so.
You need to listen to their song, "Fly Like Me." It's not sexy. It's like I'm so cool and I know it. The whole song is basically like, um, I deserve to be with someone as fly as me, and you deserve to be seen with someone as fly as me.
And
Like
you're saying this wasn't produced by Kanye West? Yeah,
Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars,
jeez,
and it slaps.
amazing.
It's oozing vibe. Jamiroquai, quite sexy.
Yes,
Do Jamiroquai? They do. Wait,
JK.
Jamiroquai does Canned Heat. I want to say that's Jamiroquai. Let's look it up real quick. That's a sexy song. Why would you open up the web? Yeah, Lee saying yes. Canned Heat is a sexy song. Why? Oh, and they also have Virtual
Yeah,
Insanity.
I can see it. Yeah, Virtual Insanity.
So the synth and keys player for that, for Jamiroquai, has a YouTube channel,
Really?
and it's so good. It's like just pure vibe. He's just like this is a synth that was like gifted to me, or one that I bought, and we're just gonna play it. And he just plays it, and he's like gives you the most beautiful, delicate, and then he just starts combining with other synthesizers.
Oh,
And he's so
amazing.
softly spoken and so like gentle and lovely. Yeah, he's amazing, man.
It's a man who loves his craft.
Oh, dude. And
I've got time for that.
Oh, 100%. It's infectious. It's the kind of thing that you need to watch to like kick your ass into gear.
Yeah.
I need to kick my ass into gear. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting though. You watch some people and they're similarly inclined, I suppose, and it almost becomes overwhelming, and you think, "Oh my god, I'm never gonna get myself to that level." And then you watch others like that, and you're like, "Yeah, this is uplifting. This is inspiring. I'm gonna go out and do that too."
I think it's the person. There's something about the person
Yes.
who feels like they infect you with a can-do attitude,
Yeah, absolutely.
which is brilliant. And then there's other people like Tame Impala is one of those people that I look at. I'm like, I wish I was that good, you know. But like Stevie Wonder or Stuart Copeland is one of those people that I like listen to. I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see Stuart Copeland being very uplifting.
You know what I mean? Like listen to him, and he's just like, yeah, I can do it. Why can't I do it?
Yeah.
You know, he just makes me feel like I can.
It's inspiring as opposed to intimidating.
Yeah, there's something intimidating about some artists. You're just like Yusuf Days.
Yeah.
Is one of those. Do you ever listen to much Yusuf Days?
Not a lot.
It's more like on the jazzy side of things. He's a drummer. And you listen to him, he's younger than both of us by a few years, and he is literally like.
See, when it's an artist that's around our age or a little bit younger, I think, oh shit,
What have I been doing?
Hello?
Bruh.
Yeah, bruh. And it's incredible, just the young talent that we're getting these days.
Oh man,
it definitely does a little for the self-confidence, I suppose.
everyone has their time.
But I think it's absolutely not virtuous for us to compare ourselves in such ways, because everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. Everyone has something to bring to the table.
He's hoping.
No,
I really hope that's true.
In your case, I definitely know it.
Okay, well, thank you. But what I'm going to subvert what you're saying, because I think you're talking about something else. What I'm going to say is this. I think I have learned how much I enjoy talking to people, and that I want to incorporate that more into my everyday life, or like into what I do with my time. And that's why I think this is kind of like a fun thing for me to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
I just want to talk to more people, learn about them. It's been great learning about you.
Oh,
this
thank
has
you.
been
Likewise.
like a masterclass in at the Jakers.
At the Jakers.
Has any of the clout,
Bit of product placement.
has any of the clout of being an admin of a relatively successful music shitposting page?
I occasionally get the odd friend request, and I think, "What are you doing, mate?" What are
And you
doing?"
know that they're from the community?
Absolutely, I
What
do.
have-
Oh, You can point them out in a lineup.
Oh, really?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, that's so good.
absolutely.
There must be some genuine degenerates on that.
It's a mixed bag.
It's a mixed bag.
It's a mixed
That's the
bag.
diplomatic response.
Thank you.
I like that.
There are some incredible people, and then there are some people that I don't hesitate to.
Flicker.
Oh, absolutely.
Give a flick.
It's
That's interesting.
But that's the thing. Our society is made up of so many diverse people with diverse opinions, beliefs, values.
It's the rich tapestry.
It is a rich tapestry, but it is also a tapestry with some malignant factors, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're always doing what we can to try and bring out the best in both ourselves and those around us. And if people are going out of their way to cause trouble without really any good cause, then sometimes it does pay to, I suppose, cut the cloth accordingly.
Sure, I see what you're saying.
Sorry, I didn't want to enter into any fascist sort of
No, it's just like,
imagery.
If you're going to spend your time and effort on people, then you're going to spend it on people.
Absolutely. And you've got to do what's right for the community. And if people are picking fights with others in the comment section or things like that, then it's just going to lead to a shift in dynamics. It's not going to be as welcoming.
Yeah, also I just think people just take things that happen on the internet too seriously.
Oh, absolutely they do.
Lee's saying, when's the shapes tier list portion of the interview? What's your favorite shapes? As in like
actual shapes.
No, as in like Arnott's.
Arnott shapes. Okay. Oh, that's a tough one. I think pizza is the safe choice.
As being the top?
Yeah. Barbecue's okay. I will definitely go out of my way to pick barbecue over the other flavors. Probably more controversially, I do like chicken crimpy.
Okay, these guys, like the band, love chicken crimpy.
I do really.
I am decidedly not a chicken crimpy respecter. I should try it again soon, but my experience has been like, what are we doing here?
See, it's the cheesy ones. I think there's even a pork?
Cheesy bacon.
Yeah. Can't do it.
I'm into it.
You are?
I'm into it. Yeah.
Wow.
100%. Yeah, I could.
Interesting.
Do it. Savory, mid.
Yeah.
Just savory? Like, what even are you?
Yeah, exactly. It just seems like such a catch-all. It's like gourmet being a fancy French word for fancy, more or less. It's just a sort of nothing catch-all.
Yeah, it's just like, specifically with savory, it's like the scientists in lab couldn't decide what this tastes like, but it's roughly unctuous, roughly salty, so it's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lee isn't happy with your choice of pizza. Are you gonna go out and say chicken crimpy is the best, or do you still prefer pizza to?
This is the first time I've ever really been forced to have strong opinions on shapes.
Bro, there's no way you've made it to almost 29 and not had to have a serious conversation about shapes.
Oh, see, I'm more of a chocolate person.
We'll get to that.
I don't have that much of a sweet tooth either, so I've got really no business saying that. But I do love my chocolate.
Okay. So what's at the top?
I'm guessing that I'm not allowed to play equal favorites here.
No. I mean, yeah, kind of. That's fine. Are you going to put them side by side?
I'm gonna be a disappointment, I reckon, and say pizza's gonna come out on top.
I would probably agree. I mean, I would agree between those two, obviously, but I think pizza's the best. We're not doing Aldi brand chocolate tier list, Lee, but I appreciate the question.
Aldi brand chocolate. Well, that's just as well because
you don't know it.
Nah,
it's fine. Moser Roth is at the top. That's all that needs to be said about that. Favorite chocolate bar? Go.
Oh, that depends on my mood. I'm not hugely fond of how it's sourced, but I would say Lindt dark chocolate with sea salt or caramel.
Banging.
Absolutely.
Banging. You get the sweet and the sweet punches through that bitter.
Nice complex flavor profile.
100%. All right. I reckon that's good. I think that's probably a good thing even to end this whole lot. How do you feel?
Oh, pretty good. Pretty good.
I think that went well.
What's up?
I think that went well. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for being number one. Thanks for
absolute pleasure, absolute privilege.
Thanks for popping my cherry, as they say.
And vice versa.
I wouldn't have had it. I wouldn't have done it with anyone else.
Oh,
thanks,
you
mate.
Flatter me.
Cheers.
All right. Good to be here.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. we had quite a few people come through. Had a bunch of people comment and talk about stuff. We had even Mason come in and say Silk Sonic is decidedly not sexy,
Ooh,
which
that's
is
emphatic.
I know he doesn't believe that because we kind of grinded against each other and sang Silk Sonic the other day. So he's just trolling. Where this whole thing is gonna go in the future is I want to get some artists in, and because we're in the studio right now, you guys can't see the rest of the room, but because we're in the studio, I want to also get people to do like a tiny desk style concert.
I like that.
So do like maybe a 40 to an hour chat, and then be like, cool, you guys want to play something for us? And then get it all into my little how's it going there, my little interface. Do a rough mix, maybe get them to play before we start talking, just so we can get everything sounding good, make it effortless, get onto the kit and synthesizers and guitars and all that sort of stuff. Have them do like a maybe 15-20 minute set. I wanted to talk to you about your mate who's like the director as well, maybe talk about getting some good different like angles and stuff happening. Because I'd love to invite people on and well, from my perspective, have them on to learn about them. But from their perspective, because they're giving us their time, give them content that they can then use themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah.
One of my friends, sorry, Lee wants us to have each artist's shaped tier list as a memento. Maybe we should have, like Top Gear has, back in the day, they used to have who could go around the track the fastest.
Yeah.
Like the celebrity in the reasonably priced car.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have like every year, all the people that come in, we should like put a point towards whichever thing that they think is the best.
Yeah.
And then come up with the musicians or artist shapes tier list at the end of the year. What do you reckon, Lee? I reckon that's a killer idea, actually.
Yeah, I can definitely see that gaining traction.
We'll just pull it out and be like, all right, so where are you at with this? Anyway. Yeah, I want people to be able to play. So one of my friends, I met him working a couple of months ago. He's a Colombian guy, and he does really great Colombian music with his partner in Melbourne, and they've started doing quite well actually.
Nice.
And I, put up stories about this, and he was just kind of like, "Oh, that sounds fantastic." And I was thinking, great, I would love to have him on. Like let's have him on. Let's get him and his band playing some music, and let's get them some content that they can put out into the world. Yeah, I'd love to do something like that. So this was the first. I kind of feel like I'm
of many.
Hopefully of many. I kind of wanted to do that thing where I was putting it off because I wanted it to be perfect. I actually wanted to do this first episode this time last year, and I didn't. And that's why I was so keen to just do it, because I was like, if I just do it, then it'll start, like the second one will be easier.
Yeah.
But this is where I'm at right now. It's going to get better week over week.
Absolutely. You'll learn with it each one.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I haven't booked anyone in for next week. I'm talking to some people. I think this time sort of makes sense. I personally feel a bit more awake and curious in the mornings, which I don't think is true necessarily for a lot of musicians. So I'm going to have to see how that works. Maybe it's not going to be the same time firstly, I'm not going to promise to do it every week. I'm going to promise to do it once a month and then over deliver and hopefully do it.
Well, you've caught me after my 9 to 5 and I'm still lucid. So I reckon that probably speaks volumes.
That's good. That's good. I don't think I'm quite lucid. We'll see. I think I got through the interview.
You definitely masked it well.
It was okay. But yeah, that was really fun. So thanks.
Oh,
thanks for coming
absolute pleasure to be here.
I'm going to say bye to everyone now. Thanks for joining us. Love you all. All right. Peace.